Hey, what's going on? I just remembered I forgot to oil this chair. This chair is squeaky as hell, but I realized too late we just started, so next time I make a note to myself. How's everyone doing? Comment, like, share, subscribe if you're up in here. Just like takes no time at all. Gonna give a couple seconds for people to get up in here. Yeah, I mean Monday and Thursday, you know how we do around 7. Today was a little bit late, but yeah, we're around the 7 o'clock time. We're gonna be having live streams. Occasionally there might be some bonus live streams or just I want to get into doing edited videos, like start making like actual edited videos on the weekend stuff and then releasing those. So those won't be live, but that's I'd rather under promise and over deliver. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, thanks everyone for getting back into the groove and watching. So we requalified to be monetized. So that's gonna be happening soon. We just did the application. I'm sure it's not gonna be a problem being approved for that because we were approved for it before. So unless something changed or with them or our content has shifted in YouTube's views, we should be remonetized. But also check out the regular podcast, Champagne Sharks, anywhere you listen to podcasts. But if you want the full experience, go to patreon.com/champagne sharks. That's where you get the full everything, all the podcasts, including the patron only podcasts. So, yeah, we get to do deeper dives there, but we also get to talk about copyrighted stuff. So, it's a better place for us to talk about music and different things. YouTube's better for visually reacting to things, but for things that are copyrighted, it's like hellish. But yeah, anyway, I hope everyone's doing good. We're going to get right to it. We're not going to waste a lot of time because I don't want all these stories to be 2 hours. So I'm experimenting with trying to find shorter video topics. So anyway, let's see. This one is called Kendrick Was Right. The Party is Dying. By Blackie Speaks. And links to everything are going to be in the description. So anyway, here we go.
Distracted, more tired, almost drained in a way that's hard to describe in one sentence. And everyone now these last few months, something about
They know it's funny. What he's talking about here is actually the topic of our last podcast. We had a podcast talking about how it seems like everything across the board sucks right now, and it's hard to wrap your head around. And what he's describing here, I think, is very similar, even though it came out months ago, because this feeling's been around for a while.
now these last few months, something about life just feels different. People seem more disconnected, more distracted, more tired, almost drained in a way that's hard to describe in one sentence. And everyone I've spoken to personally tells me they feel it as well. You see it everywhere, even in entertainment. Music doesn't hit the same because people don't feel the same. Modern movies don't last like they used to. Nothing sticks, nothing's memorable. And honestly, even friendships feel different too. Like friends aren't really friendening like before.
Well, I blame social media in general, but I feel like it's a little too glib and too easy an answer, even though I think it's the right one.
The question I've been asking myself is, what exactly changed these last few years? Is this just a sign of the times, or is it exactly what Kendrick Lamar was pointing out, the shift happening right now in our culture? On September 11th, 2024, Kendrick Lamar dropped a song called Watch the Party Die. At first, people propped it up as another response to the explosive rap beef he had with Drake. And honestly, most people who didn't really listen still think that's what it was about. But on this track, Kendrick wasn't focused on the beef at all. He was speaking on where the rap game was heading, the culture, and the music industry.
Well, I disagree. I think he was focused on the beef, but he was contextualizing it within a broader trend. I don't think it's right to say it had nothing to do with the beef, personally.
As a whole, how everything started feeling hollow, material, surface level, and how the energy around music was quietly fading away. And about 13 months later, the numbers reflected it. Like we spoke about a few weeks ago, rap completely fell out of the Billboard Top 40 for the first time in 35 years. And the wild part is the last rap song still holding on before that drop-off was Kendrick's own record with SZA. It's called Luther.
One thing that's kind of interesting is a lot of people blame the loss of Drake for that, but Drake has been releasing songs like crazy since the beef. They just don't hit. But it's a weird narrative that his fans have created. But something else that I find very interesting that a lot of Drake fans say a lot. They say this all the time, and it doesn't make sense to me. They always say, Drake was carrying the rap game for 10 years, 15 years. What's the rap game going to do without Drake? If somebody's been around for 15 years or whatever, and they're the only person who can sell, that you're still dependent on them, then they haven't been carrying anything. They've been killing it. You helping yourself be successful is not carrying anything. Like when NWA blew up, it created a whole West Coast sound, a family of acts. It was Ruthless Records. It spawned Ice Cube. It spawned DOC. You can say that those guys carried West Coast rap on their back. You can say when Marty Marl came out, he brought the Juice Crew, and there are all these crazy Queens MCs. And then, Nas came out along with LL Cool J, and like Queens is probably the most sellingest borough in rap music, the most sellingest New York City borough. You can say like those guys or one of those guys carried Queens. Like if you're the only guy, like what good does it do me as a rapper if you're selling, like sales are up, but it's just you. And when you're gone, the sales are gone. Then you're not carrying rap, you're carrying yourself. Like you're making everybody dependent on you. It's just a weird thing. Like I don't understand. Like somebody at any given point is always selling. So if all you gotta do to carry a genre or carry something is to just sell, then at some point somebody was always selling. Like unless it's like having a halo effect of unless it's a rising tide that lifts all ships, you're not carrying anything. You're just a free rider.
That song had an incredible 13-week run at number 1, and it stayed on the chart for almost a full year. But when it finally slipped below the top 40, rap disappeared from the list entirely. And if you think
about Drake, right? Who from Canada do you really know? I mean, maybe the Party Next Door guy. He did an album with him. But I mean, for all Drake's success, like Party Next Door should be way more popular. Someone could argue Weeknd, but if Drake had his way, Weeknd was just going to stay in the OVO sweatshop making hits for him. Weeknd blew up because he broke away from Drake and chose to get out from under Drake. Like Toronto should be a major musical force in rap and pop based on Drake, and it's not. He doesn't carry his own city. How can he even carry a whole genre? Like it's very interesting. That would be like saying, Elvis was carrying black music because he popularized a watered down form of a popular black music, like, or that the Beatles were doing it, or anything. Like they didn't really lift up any of those other acts,
about it was kind of symbolic because the same artist who had been calling out the disconnect happening within the culture ended up being the final one holding that spot before everything shifted. It wasn't just a chart moment. It was the confirmation of what he already predicted was coming. And that's where the rap side of this conversation becomes an entry point into something bigger, because Drake and Kendrick represent two completely different sides of the spectrum. On one hand, Drake to a lot of people embodies the flashy, material, surface level side of rap and society, the lifestyle, the aesthetics, the luxury. That's the version of him people focus on the most. But the truth is, of course, Drake does have depth. He's actually one of the most emotionally introspective artists of our generation. It's just that
I disagree, but I mean, just talking about your emotions, even in a self-deprecating way, doesn't necessarily make it deep.
That the parts of him people choose to celebrate the most aren't the parts with the most substance. Meanwhile, Kendrick to a lot of people represents the opposite, the introspective, spiritually heavy, socially aware lane of rap that's always been there, but doesn't get the same spotlight. And this isn't about comparing both of these artists because they're both great in their own way, and it's not really about the issues they had in the past. It's bigger than that. It's the duality between them that says something about the moment we're currently in. Two artists at the top of the same genre, but representing two completely different energies. And the reason why their duality matters is because it reflects a split we're seeing everywhere, not just in culture, but in the way things are moving right now. On one side is noise, constant stimulation, trends, distractions, the pressure to always be on. The other side is depth, slowing down, protecting your peace, trying to stay grounded and real. And if you look around, most people are getting pulled towards the noise, not because they choose it, but because it's the easiest thing to fall into. It's everywhere and it's loud. And when you zoom out, it makes a lot of sense. We're living in a time of extreme abundance, endless content, endless opinions, endless stimulation. Everything is loud, constant, and spiritually draining. And Kendrick actually said this directly in the song. He has a line where he goes, "They wonder why I'm not enthused to drop. The more visible you get, the more your spiritual is tried." And a lot of us have seen the price that comes with being seen in this digital age. It's like if you don't post, you don't exist. If you're not constantly showing up online, people forget about you even faster. The more exposure you have, the more you're on people's minds. But the real question is, what are we giving up in exchange for that visibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair thing to ask, but it's yeah, introspection isn't the same as self-obsession. Yeah, totally. It's self-obsession is can easily be narcissism,
Because every
and
time we post, every
and those are the least introspective people of all.
time we share, every time we try to stay relevant, the algorithm takes a piece of us. Not literally, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It rewards whatever keeps people scrolling, whatever keeps the machine running. And that's the part a lot of us don't see. You're not just feeding an audience, you're feeding a system that doesn't care about your well being, your peace, or your sanity. And this is a big reason why so many people today are pushing back against all of it. I mean, you can really feel it. People don't want to be constantly watched anymore. People don't want to perform their lives 24/7. People are
I don't know. Do people not want to do this anymore? I mean, I hope so. I don't know.
tired of being on all the time because a lot of us are already on just trying to survive everyday life, work, bills, pressure, expectations. Most people barely have enough energy for themselves, let alone an audience. A lot of us have hit a limit, a point where the noise, the stimulation, the pressure just doesn't feel good anymore. You see it in how people express themselves on social media. You see it in how
I mean, I kind of felt this myself when I was dealing with a lot of personal stuff, and it was hard to kind of find the energy and the headspace to create content. You know, and it kind of blows my mind people who never ever take a break, like people who totally like buy into the idea of being online. You know.
people date. You see it in how people talk to each other. There's a slow collective turn happening. It's almost like people are pulling back from the dysfunction they used to be attracted to. And that's exactly the space Kendrick was speaking from. This actually reminds me of something Jack Harlow said a few years ago. He talked about how being famous makes people feel entitled to your private life. And Jack used this example of, people wanting access to everything. He said he doesn't want people knowing what his day looks like, doesn't want people inside his room, meaning the intimate parts of it.
Well, I've kind of struggled with this too because I don't really like the parasocial aspect of all this, but it does matter. It does. Uh, People don't really want the idea so much, unless it's attached to a face or a personality that they like. They want to feel like they're getting wisdom from a friend, a parent, a bestie, or whatever. It goes a lot further. I think that's why books are kind of struggling. Um, and then when you do write articles and books, even nonfiction ones, people kind of want your story in it. Like a lot of times when I read a lot of new um articles or books, like the author's gotta give me their personal relationship to the topic and a little memoir or kind of personal tie-in. And a lot of times, sometimes it's relevant, but a lot of times I just don't care. I just want to know about the topic. But I also get why they do it because a lot of people do for some reason want to know who they're reading and why, even if it's not necessarily relevant to the ostensible topic.
His life and quite literally his room. He doesn't want people to know who he's dating because once you give enough, people will take everything. And the way he handled it was simple: cut off access.
I don't want you to know what my 24 hours are like. I don't want you to see the inside.
Yeah, I agree with this, that the age of instant book deals and Netflix gigs from posting is over. Yeah, but I think there's gonna be a little echo of it that's not gonna totally go away just because the powers that be, we're stuck in the forever 2018 era where people just don't know what the next blueprint is. So the old one is still kind of running in the background on fumes, a shadow of itself. I think once they figure out any kind of plausible blueprint to replace it with in earnest, then it's really going to die once and for all.
Of my room. I don't want you to see it. I want that for me. I don't want you to know who I'm dating. I don't want you to know this and that. I want something for me. Because if you do enough, they'll take it all from you. It's all for them if you give them enough. So,
But the problem is a lot of people, that's what they want. And it used to be keeping a distance from the audience made them crave you more. But now, if you don't give them all that access, they'll trade you in for someone who will. you know um Yeah, and that could be a reason why Jack Harlow's career. Some people think it's not as good as it could be. I don't know much about his music, but I know that he was supposed to be a bigger deal than he ended up being, and some people speculate that people can't really connect to him in that parasocial way.
That's one thing I've learned is cut off some access.
Now, most of us aren't famous, and you don't have to be to understand or relate. A lot of people feel the same exact pressure in their regular lives. I mean, if you have one of these devices right here, that means that practically anyone else who has that same device has access to you, and you're supposed to perform, update, respond, explain, entertain all the time. What Jack said wasn't really about fame. It was about the human need to protect yourself, to have something that's yours, to not feel like the world owns every piece of you. And that's the same energy Kendrick was talking about. Now, when we talk about Kendrick specifically, he's in a different position, obviously. He's famous, his visibility is very global, the pressure is different, the expectations hit harder. But I don't think this line is just about him. It's about all of us living in a time where being seen comes with a cost. And the question...
Well, this is a great point. It says, I think it's only applies to people who make content. Works don't need this type of kind of access, but it's kind of tough because we have what I think is a degraded audience. So we have people who don't really have the patience or tolerance or intellectual curiosity for works. And I don't think content is necessarily all bad. It has its own use. You know, sometimes you don't want to be immersed in depth 24/7. Sometimes things are time sensitive, and you know, like news and whatever. I think news is kind of made to be content, but it doesn't make it useless. You know, like it's too ephemeral, it's too of the moment to really last more than a couple of days before it gets dated. You know, but yeah, I don't think content is necessarily automatically bad, but it is bad when it gets elevated and treated like a work. And I think, but I do think content does lend itself, even pre-social media, more to the need for parasociality.
Always becomes, what exactly is that cost? An artist once told me something I'll never forget. If you want to succeed in this game, you can't control everything. You have to surrender to your pain, meaning you can't keep trying to manage every single version of yourself people see inside their head. At some point, you have to stop performing and just be. And Kendrick talked about something that's related a few years ago in a completely different way. He talked about being a vessel, not just as an artist, but as someone who feels like his flaws, his pain, his honesty, all of it flows through him so other people can learn from it. He said his ideas don't come from him, they come through him.
I mean, we are spiritual beings, and that's something I can't never run from. I mean, I always felt like God used me as a vessel, whether to show my flaws, whether to show my intellect, to show my pain, to show my hurt, to share my stories. These words, these are ideas that...
So this might be true. I don't know enough about Jack Harlow to confirm, but you know, B. Scott says, trust me, his music is dull. Just because it's more classical rap does not mean it was going to pop off in relation to Jack Harlow. But you know, just because something is dull doesn't mean it won't do well. There's plenty of dull stuff that does well just because the person created a relatable parasocial relationship, you know? So sadly, I think whether something's actually good or not is one of the least important things nowadays, or at least in the recent era, you know, for something to be popular. Now, to be memorable, I think it has to be good. To be popular, I don't think it has to be good. There's plenty of super popular stuff that if you were to revisit the old charts from decades ago, you'd be like, what the hell is this? Like it was sold 1 million copies in its day and nobody talks about it anymore.
It's coming way beyond me.
So when you listen to what he said, the more visible you get, the more your spiritual is tried. You realize he's not exaggerating. He's speaking from experience, from the weight of being watched, judged, analyzed, consumed every single day. And even if we're nowhere near that level of visibility, a lot of people felt a version of that in 2025. This year, so many people hit a level of exhaustion we haven't felt in a long time. The world shifted in ways we didn't fully notice while it was happening. Things feel more fleeting. People feel more fleeting. Everything we thought was solid suddenly feels temporary. A lot of us chase things we were sure would fulfill us. Success, validation, attention, relationships, material goals. And then we got them and realized they weren't actually carrying us forward. They weren't feeding us. They weren't aligning with who we were becoming.
I mean, I think it's nice that these people even got them, because most people aren't even getting them. Most people are realizing it's all bullshit just because they haven't been getting what they thought they were going to get. All the layoffs, all the AI promises of, you know, things not mattering anymore, et cetera, et cetera.
Moments where we looked at things that we wanted really badly in the past and we just quietly admitted to ourselves, this right here is not going to take me to where I'm trying to go. And that realization obviously hurts because it means the past version of you can survive the future you're stepping into. One of the best descriptions
I think a bigger problem is not that this is not going to take me where I want to go, but I think realizing that they don't have anywhere they want to go. I think people through social media and through media and just general media and whatever, everything is built on getting more popular, but you don't know why you want to get more popular. It's just the idea. I mean, like, what's the point of social media really outside of getting more eyeballs, getting more friends? Like, there's a lot of people out there who change what they're doing every couple of videos or every couple of months based on what's popular, just based on what the algorithm rewards. So it's like, you're not trying to chase more eyeballs because you have a message you want to get out. You're searching for messages because you want to get more eyeballs. But why do you want to get more eyeballs? Like, presumably to get more money. But I think people care about eyeballs more than money. I think there's a lot of people who, if they want to make money, there's a lot easier ways to do it.
what so many people felt in 2025 actually came from Erykah Badu last year. She talked about that moment in life when you're evolving, but also realizing you have to let go of the version of yourself that can take you forward, the version that feels familiar but doesn't serve you anymore.
Realizing that I had to leave some things behind, some parts of me behind. So it felt like a funeral of sorts because you have a part of you has to die. Every time you evolve, you got to leave it back there. You want it because it's familiar. A lot of times we like to resort to the familiar, even if it's toxic.
She described that emotional funeral we all go through, that painful moment when you know a part of your old self has to be left behind. Not because it was bad, but because it just can't carry you into the next season of your life. And that's where this whole idea of transformation starts to make sense. I see it almost like a metamorphosis, a caterpillar starting as an egg, moving through every stage, reshaping and eventually becoming a butterfly. Nature shows us that every version of us has seasons, and some seasons have to end for the next one to begin. And Kendrick taps into that same energy too. In the second verse, he says, I see a new earth filled with beautiful people making human.
I think this guy's kind of making a point, but he's making it a little too broad and a little too glib, a little too expansive. Like, I don't think he's wrong, but he's not making it specific enough to really, like, why is the party dying? What is happening? What are people? Why are people not being fulfilled? What do people need to be? You know, like, what part of your old self are you getting rid of? And are you throwing out the baby with the bathwater? You know, it's a good start, but I think it needs a little more depth.
Humanity work. Now, the phrase new earth is mostly connected to the Bible. Kendrick has always been open.
Like, making humanity work, a lot of people think they're making humanity work. Even those MAGA people trying to get, who are racist, trying to get all those immigrants deported and making America great again. They think they're making humanity work. Like, everybody can't be right.
By his faith. He's a Christian baptized at the age of 16 and again at 20. But outside of that context, New Earth has taken on a much broader meaning today. For a lot of people, it's not about religion at all. It's simply a way to describe the feeling that life is changing. The world we knew even 5 years ago doesn't feel the same. And whether it's relationships, technology.
I kind of disagree. I think the bigger problem, life changed more. And I've been talking to somebody about this. Actually, I think in the episode that's going to come out either tonight or tomorrow, the podcast, we're talking about this. I think we get so much information all the time, so much inconsequential information. We're overloaded in this content glut that it feels like things are changing faster than ever because the gossip is changing faster than ever. And there is more pseudo events. There's more things to gossip about and talk about, and more characters and more lolcows and more trolls and new topics of the day to make content about. But on a fundamental level, things are changing less than ever. Like, we've been stuck in what I've been calling Forever 2018. Like, I've never seen a movement or moment last this long. Like, even though it's kind of on the ropes with MAGA, it's still kind of the dominant mode to be in. Forever 2018 doesn't necessarily mean the woke people, doesn't necessarily mean the anti-woke chuds. It's more the whole mode, the whole system, the whole culture war garbage, the whole way of relating, the hot take way, the bad faith social media post way, the way of lying without lying that the internet like popularizes, the knee-jerk reactions, the all or nothing aspect of everything, the stripping of nuance of everything. Like, we've been stuck. I've never seen a mode last this long. I mean, the 2018 mode didn't even start in 2018. I'd say it probably started between 2012 and 2014, but I feel like 2018 is kind of where it had its peak dominance, between 2018 and 2020, you know, and then it kind of started going into decline from there. But we still haven't figured out a post 2018 way to be. It's just 2018 is just running on fumes, is running on autopilot while they're trying to figure out a new course to path, a new path. You know what I mean? And no one can really think of, like, it's kind of like we burnt our brains out during that great awakening period.
Culture, or our own personal growth, you can feel that we as humans have changed too. And maybe that's why the party feels like it's dying. Not because things fell apart, but because we outgrew the version of ourselves that kept showing up there. 2025 was the year the noise stopped being entertaining. People didn't walk away from the party because it ended. They walked away because they were tired of losing themselves in the crowd. And that's the...
I don't think it's giving too much credit. I don't think people have walked away. I think people are still in the party. They just can't find the exit. And they kind of, as much as the party's sucking, they're kind of scared of being with no party. So it's like you're not enjoying the party, but you're also scared to leave the party. So you're trying to find new rooms in the party. Like think about how many people, when Elon Musk bought Twitter, the first thing was to be like, what's gonna be the new Twitter? Let's all go to Threads. Oh, that sucks. Let's go to Blue Sky, you know, or as I call it, Blue Sky itself is 2018, the social media platform. Like, so they went to 2018, like Forever 2018, the social media site, and that sucked. Or people, you know, trying to find refuge in group chats. Like I don't think people are tuning out. It's like when you're a drug addict, and for all drug addicts and all drugs, there reaches a point where you get tolerance, and the drug goes from getting you high to you needing the drug just to feel normal. Like, you're not actually enjoying the drug anymore. You're not feeling those euphoric, invincible, omnipotent feelings of the old high. You feel like shit when you're not on the drug, and you're taking the drug just to not feel like crap. That's like the end result of all addictive habituation. And I think that's where people are. I don't really buy into this optimistic new awakening that he's saying. I mean, I would like it to be true, but I'm just not so sure. Anyway, let's move on to the next video. Kendrick's warning to the entire music industry. This one is a little less esoteric. I mean, the other one's good too. I just don't fully buy the thesis.
There's a shift happening right now in mainstream media. The tactics that used to work on the public aren't really working as much as they used to. And we've been seeing it happen in real time. Today, we're going to unpack how the mainstream media tactics aren't working, especially after Kendrick's performance. Because as of lately, it feels like some of the gimmicks that would work on the public aren't working as much as they used to. Kendrick tackled a lot of topics and exposed people to a lot of things. When Kendrick made Watch the Party Die, it wasn't just a song, but it was to speak on the party, the current state of not only hip hop, but
I think something else that people, I kind of think, don't want to consider is like, social media sucks, but social media, I think people kind of suck. And I think, like, if people were great, being connected to more of them would make things better. It would be the best invention on earth. But it's like, you know, people kind of go by this default that people are great and social media sucks, and that social media is a corrupting force. But it's like, okay, yeah, maybe rage sells the most and social media does all these things, like, show you the most enraging thing, um, baits you into doing no context or whatever. But the fact that that's what works the best on us, I think, is his own kind of indictment of us to begin with, And I think, I do think we have to criticize social media for exacerbating the issue, but I think we also have to kind of think about humanity. Like, if people were better with social media, work as well at making everything suck. I just don't think. I think people are almost like a controlled substance. You shouldn't just have too many people around. It's not good to not have connections, to not have people. That's his own issue. But I think being surrounded by, being immersed in people, interacting with people just for the sake, there's too many damaged people out there, and it's so much easier for a damaged person to damage someone else just by the sheer quantity of them, and just by how much easier it is to break things and build things. It's so much easier for a damaged person to spread a little bit more damage than it is for a great person to elevate and improve another person. I think you've really got to screen people. You need people. You can't get places without people. But I think we're a little too reckless with interactions. And social media, I think, makes that worse. It just exposes us to too many people who themselves are pretty reckless about who they interact with. Like in general, that's one of the reasons why I've just kind of tried to limit a lot of interaction. I turned off comments on places like the Patreon, just because most of the times it was never anything particularly constructive. It wasn't even that it had to be positive, but it would just be I could take something negative that's constructive than something positive that's just toxic. It's hard to explain, but anyway.
The entertainment industry in general. Now, in this message of the song, he explains how we will see the industry that once ruled with an iron fist through manipulation and tactics of deceitfulness will now fail to fool the public they've been making money off of for years. There's been cracks in the mainstream media and entertainment industry. For decades, the entertainment industry, including music, film, and media, have relied heavily on manipulation tactics to shape public opinion, from controlling narratives to pushing manufactured artists or moments. However, those tactics...
Oh, yeah, this is exactly what I was trying to say with the whole Drake thing, and the whole thing about Drake carrying the industry. Yeah, this is a perfect example, this story here. What's up, Mario? Yeah, but this idea that somebody's carrying a genre by making a bunch of money for themselves, but they can't do anything without him. They're not carrying anything. They're carrying themselves at the expense of everyone else. Totally.
Less effective now, rather it be on the way that people have access to information. People don't rely on traditional media anymore. Social media, podcasts, YouTube, independent journalism. These are all examples of how people and fans use these methods to analyze, critique, and uncover agendas in real time. The public is becoming more media literate. The audience isn't as passive as before. People recognize PR stunts, label manufactured feuds, forced narratives, and industry plans. This awakening leads to skepticism around big media pushes. Younger generations are less interested in untouchable stars and more drawn to the authenticity. This could be noticeable when we see Kendrick Lamar go against Drake in the rap battle and how people feel about Drake's music now. But someone to talk about who recently dropped an album that receives high praise and has been selling millions of records worldwide is starting to get mixed reviews, and it seems like it's coming out of nowhere. But I don't think it's so far-fetched for Taylor Swift to get these type of mixed reviews. The curated perfection of someone like Taylor Swift might have worked flawlessly a decade ago, but now it could come off as ungenuine or overly strategic. When Kendrick Lamar made Watch the Party Die, Kendrick's recent performance, especially the diss track around Not Like Us, was more than just a cultural moment. It was a symbolic disruption. Watch the Party Die isn't just about Drake or the rap beef. It's a commentary on an entire system, calling out not just artists, but the media machines behind them. He exposed the hollow core of what's been pushed as entertainment, the party, the charade, the fake unity, the corporate puppetry. It's like Kendrick pulled the curtain back, and the public finally saw that the Wizard of Oz was just a man pressing buttons. Taylor.
I think this is true, but I think people are just kind of getting broke too. I think everybody was experiencing their own party, So you were happy. It was a trickle down bullshit. It was a trickle down party, you know. And like, think about what's going on the past couple of years. Like, all the music is for the club. Everybody's going to the club all the time, starting in the 2000s. When you listen to 2000, 2010 music, it was all so built for the clubs. All rap videos were just dancing at a party with like a million girls and a million bottles. Like, this lack of substance has been happening for like a while, but look how everybody was just looking for the cheat code. We were in this kind of cheat code existence. Bitcoin's going to be the cheat code. Robinhood's going to be the cheat code. PPP loans. Everyone was just getting PPP loans, not worrying about the fraud, and just like, you know, we'll worry about it when it comes. I'm going to buy something I can't even afford. I'm not just going to get fraudulent money, but I'm going to put a down payment with the money, not even buy something in full. I'm going to use all the money to put a down payment. And then I don't know how I'm going to make the monthly payments after spending all the fraud money on the down payment. I just know another fraud's going to happen down the road that I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Or if it gets repossessed, hey, I had 3 months with a Bentley. Who cares? And what does my credit like who cares? Like, when you're in the midst of your own shallow party, then you're not going to want music with depth. You're not going to want movies with a message. You're not going to want things with introspection, because your current existence kind of requires you not to introspect on yourself for it to work. So you need people who are making you feel okay about being shallow and having a party. So you want your music just be about when's the next turn up going to be? You know, you want your art to be about, hey, we're in a culture war and we're winning. Everything is going to last forever, you know? So I think one of the reasons why people are starting to realize these artists are so shallow and whatever is because their lives are starting to suck. Like, it's kind of like when a party's going on, everyone's kind of got to be on the same drug. If you ever like try to go sober and hang out places where people are drunk or whatever, you just kind of look around and you're just like, what the fuck is this? Like, everyone sounds like an idiot. You know, I think it's kind of the problem. People don't have the money to party. They don't have the motivation. They're depressed. They're worried about the future. Everything seems insecure. You know, a lot of cheap money's drying up. So a lot of bullshit jobs are drying up. AI is ruining things. You know, and people feel really insecure. And yeah, a lot of jobs are going. There's a lot of bad stuff happening in the economy. Inflation's happening. People can't keep up. People can't fake that they're rich anymore. A lot of things that were subsidized by the cheap money are no longer being subsidized. You want to order DoorDash every day or Postmates. It costs way more than it used to cost. You know, like the delivery fee is insane. Now you got to think about things you didn't think about before. People got so used to taking cars everywhere because Uber and Lyft were subsidized and you weren't paying the full price. The tech companies are losing money on every ride. So you start feeling like you were richer than you were, you know? Now you got to like look at the bus timetable and look at the train schedule and, you know, bring a book with you because you're going to be, you know, taking a train someplace. You know, there were these rent-a-car tech companies that they would drive the car to you and then come pick it up from you, and it costs less than what the old rental car used to cost, where you had to go yourself and pick it up in person. Like, everything just made you feel kind of rich and having a party, and like, hey, fine, I'll get this cheap rental car, feel like a baller, rent a car for a week, and I'll pop this Taylor Swift or this Drake or the Shallow thing, you know. But yeah, when the party's over, at least for you, you're not really trying to hang around and watch other people party, you know. And you know, they start wondering, like, why are you still partying? Like what do you know that I don't know? What do you have? Like, what how are you eating?
Swift, like I said, had recently dropped an album and it's been getting so many mixed reviews. And I think this is the reason why. As Taylor Swift is getting mixed reviews, I thought that was strange because she usually has a lot of positive reactions from her albums coming out. People
Yeah, and I think as it gets bad enough, you stop wanting to escape. You hit like rock bottom and you start wanting like actual answers, you know. And these people, they don't have the answers, Sway. They don't have the answers.
Are real accepting of her albums on her release. There is some negative things, but this negativity, these mixed reviews are more noticeable than previous times. This could signal fatigue with the constant media saturation. Taylor has mastered the art of narrative control, but now some fans are questioning the authenticity of her storytelling, her relationships, and even her.
And one thing Taylor Swift does, she weaponizes her fans and she like milks them. She extorts them basically. She makes like it's not like she really has a million fans. Like Michael Jackson Thriller, he had like a million people buying one album, and Taylor Swift is more like somebody who has 200,000 people buying 50 albums. You know, like she'll make multiple versions of every single thing. She'll have all these weird promotions to make you spend money. Like you had to spend money for the right to spend more money on something. Like she has all these. We had an episode on this where he talked about fan communities with Monia Ali, and it was on a podcast. So you should definitely check it out. But we talked about the whole ecosystem of all of this, and you know, when people are running out of money, when people start having real problems, you know, it's like shit. Like you want me to buy? You have 10 different versions of your album. The only thing different about them is 10 different album covers. Like you start kind of waking up. It's start being like the cartoon. You know, the cartoon when the person realizes that they've been had and their face turns into like a donkey or lollipop. It's a sucker. You know, the cartoon character. I think it's how people are starting to feel with a lot of this stuff. Like they're starting to wake up. And one thing about people, when they feel like they've been had, when they feel like they've fallen out of a cult, they start hating the cult with the same passion that they used to love it. And that hatred they have is really a hatred of themselves for falling for it. And they like almost like killing that cult, killing that figure that represents like your old stupidity is almost like a way of like working out your anger at yourself for having been so easily gullible, so much of a mark. And I think that's kind of what's happening with Taylor Swift now. I think people are just kind of starting to feel like they've been had.
Artistry. There's a growing sense that the Taylor machine, which again is backed up by UMG, though incredibly efficient, is starting to feel like a product, not a person. This isn't necessarily a fall from grace, but it might be the beginning of a plateau or a decline in influence. What's happening, Kendrick didn't just end a party, he exposed the party for always being fake. And now the public is starting to walk out. The shift doesn't just affect rappers, it affects every artist.
Yeah, like these comments are, you know, really funny and accurate, but everything these people say about her always apply to her music. That's the interesting thing, is like they act like she's gone down the tubes, but has she really changed? No, something about them changed.
It's a celebrity label and media outlet that relied on the illusion.
All of you Taylor Swift fans who love Taylor but hate this new album, just know that what this new album sounds like to you is what this album has always sounded like to us. First time, I think, in any Taylor Swift release, I'm seeing a lot of white people come out and critique the album in a way that we all knew was the truth about the kind of music that Taylor Swift makes.
Taylor Swift makes music for people that don't like music. It's always been so plain and vanilla for me, and I'll die on that hill.
Taylor Swift's new album is many things, but unfortunately, good is not one of them. I am a dark and twisted poet. The corners of my mind, you'll never know it.
What used to work, oversaturation, manipulation, PR stunts, just doesn't hit the same anymore. People want truth, rawness, real stakes, and they're not afraid to question what they once blindly celebrated. But remember, Taylor Swift was in support of Kendrick Lamar. They've collabed before in the past.
The one thing I'm not fully buying, I don't fully believe that people want truth, authenticity, whatever. I think a lot of people do, but I think a lot of people are just mad. They're just mad because they realize that they were part of that they were just subsidizing the party. Like they thought they were equal guests at the party. They were just subsidizing it. You know, it's kind of like after a bubble, the last people in the bubble, which are the regular people like you and me, were what they call exit liquidity. Before like a pyramid scheme or a bubble pops, the last people who entered it, you know, are the ones who fund the top people at it. And those are the people who survived the bubble or the pyramid scheme with all their money intact and whatever. And the rest of us are called like exit liquidity in finance. I think in the social world is kind of the same thing. I think people is kind of realizing like, hey, we're just food for you guys. We're just you know, you look at Nicki Minaj and her stands. Like a lot of her stands are still never going to change, but a growing amount of them kind of realize, like, hey, you just kind of use this as this army to kind of bleed dry, and you don't really give a fuck about us. You know, you just you make us think like we're just one giant, like, you know, family. You're just some kind of den mother. It's kind of like, I never read Oliver Twist, but I know there's like some kind. Is his name Fagin? Some guy who takes kids and turns them into like a pickpocket gang. You know what I mean? And he makes like this kind of family with the orphans, and you know, makes the orphans feel like they're part of something, you know, bigger than themselves. But he's just using them to be his pickpocket gang and whatever. And he doesn't really care about them. And they realize after that they've just been like used or being exploited. I feel like that's kind of relationship these people have with their fans now, and that's where a lot of the turning against a lot of these new artists who create these stan armies and then just exploit and weaponize them. They're like both marks and weapons, which is like what cult members are. You know, look at Jim Jones cults. He's abusing them. Like in cults, you abuse the cult members, they're victims, but they're also co-conspirators. You're abusing and traumatizing them, but you're also conditioning them to be your weapons to abuse other people. But they have Stockholm syndrome, and fandoms work like cults now.
Yes, Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar do.
And the reason why I don't think everyone's going for authenticity. I think there's a growing amount of people who are with people like Kendrick for authenticity, but I think there's a lot of people who are just going to Kendrick because he's the new cult. They're going to the authentic guy, but for the wrong reason, you know. And I think it's easy to fool yourself to thinking that means that there's some kind of great awakening going on, and everybody is becoming awakened. I think there's a significant amount of people who have become awakened, and then there's a lot of people who are just like, "Oh man, I was so stupid to fall for Drake. I hate." That I see through Drake now how corny he was, and I feel like he fooled me, and I'm mad at him, and I want to join Team Kendrick. But they're really joining Team Kendrick because they hate Drake now, but they hate Drake because they hate themselves, because they hate what being a Drake fan exposed about themselves. And if they can kill Drake, they can kill what they hate about themselves that being a Drake fan kind of exposed to them. Like, you know, like what did they say about me that I was a fan of this you know, scammer. You know, it's kind of like how people, after they have been with the narcissist, they become obsessed with narcissists and hating the specific narcissist, because what you're really mad is how you let the narcissist like walk all over you or use you or take from you without reciprocating. I think that's the relationship a lot of these people have with their former media cult leaders. And I think both these videos are being a little too gracious, mistaking that for a mass awakening. I don't think, I'm not sure yet it's a mass awakening. It'll take more time.
Have a history of collaboration and mutual respect. Most notably on Bad Blood remix back in 2015, the partnership was a major cultural moment, pop and conscious rap coming together at the peak of both artists' influence. So it does raise a compelling question. If Kendrick is now challenging the system that Taylor benefits from, what does that mean for their past alignment? I mean, after all, she was celebrating him at the Grammys last year, and she seems to be happy for him when he wins the award. I'm sure that there's a positive relationship that they have. However, now Kendrick is talking anti-industry and anti-facade. Kendrick's recent work, including Not Like Us and Watch the Party Die, is about disrupting the machinery of
I want to say this, you know, I like the 80s flashy music and the new wave and like the 70s punk and you know, kind of dystopian stuff, and then the 90s grunge. I think the problem that happened with the 2000s is parties were never supposed to last this long. They were like it was like the social cultural equivalent of a rave. You know how in real life we start having like 12-hour, 24-hour parties. I feel like when it comes to like parties as epics, as eras, we start having too long parties. Like, you know, the 80s wasn't even the full 80s. Like the new wave stuff started like around like 1982, 1983, you know, and was kind of on his way out by 1988, you know. The grunge 90s was already starting to be felt by the late 80s, you know, like industrial music and different things. It would be like if hair metal and new wave lasted like almost 20 years. That's why I think, because I think you can't just be introspective and depressed all the time. Just like I don't think you can have works 24/7. You do need some content. It is nice to have some fun. You're just not supposed. It's like people addicted to ecstasy. You're not supposed to feel good 24/7. Like if you're taking, like I remember I saw this documentary on this guy who got into ecstasy with his kids and became an ecstasy addict, and his kids even started looking at him like a loser, and they're like, "Man, what's up with Dad? He won't stop doing ecstasy." And they started saying, "Yeah, Dad, I don't think he's meant to feel good all the time." And the kids were like talking to the dad. It was an HBO documentary, but I'll never forget it. And I think that's kind of the real problem. It's not that because I think starting to think that you should never have a party, or the party's evil, the content is evil, just means you just took the same attitude and flipped it around to the other side. Like I think if you take it like that, you become like the person there's this kind of person, right, that spend a lot of time sinning and doing a lot of fucked up things, and then they give up sin, they hit rock bottom, and they become like born again, and then the same addictive or intense or over the top energy they put into sinning and partying, they make being a Christian the new addiction. I think that's the danger that people risk falling into if they fall out of liking Drake, they fall out of liking Taylor Swift, they wake up from the party, and then they start becoming acolytes of authenticity, and suddenly they're like, "Hey, I'm Team Kendrick now," and yeah, authenticity, it's got to be this, everything, and they start attacking blindly anything that they think represents. Like, I think you're still falling in that same addictive trap personally. Anyway, let's continue.
Entertainment. It critiques the fake alliances, PR-driven friendships, and image-first artistry that run the game. He's taking shots at a system that values virality and optics over truth and soul. Even though he never names Taylor, the critique naturally hits everyone who benefited from the system, and Taylor is arguably one of its most polished beneficiaries, besides Drake, of course. So while Kendrick may not be dissing Taylor directly, his message challenges the very foundation of what her brand has been built on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are waking up all at once, but I am not convinced that it's all about authenticity, because I'm telling you, if things get good again, if money starts flowing again, if money gets cheap, if there's a lot of get rich quick things like NFTs and Bitcoin starts popping again, and bullshit jobs start proliferating like they were in the 2010s, when you could just tweet all day and get tapped to write a TV show and whatever, you're going to see a lot of these people go right back to where they were. You'll know who really made a switch and who was just changing sides out of convenience and bitterness because things weren't popping anymore.
Control, commercial supremacy, and public image. No artist is immune when the public starts waking up, not even someone as powerful as Taylor Swift. The mixed reception to her last album shows signs of public fatigue. People are starting to see through the meta-narrative styling of her storytelling. People don't think that she's really being authentic with the music that she's making. And while she supported progressive causes, her brand still thrives off careful image management, industry relationships, and mass market appeal, the same thing that Kendrick is dismantling. This is why when Kendrick had did what he did, the impact that he's done after the beef is so important, because not only did it affect Drake, it's affecting Taylor Swift now. And I only feel like the negative comments being shared about Taylor Swift currently are more noticeable now because everybody is starting to see through the facade. They're starting to see how bland things are coming out, how bland things are looking. This wasn't just a beef between artists. It was a shift in power. The Kendrick and Drake battle felt different because it wasn't just lyrical. It was existential. Kendrick didn't just diss Drake. He challenged everything he stood for: wealth, clout, PR relationships, ghostwriting, even the alleged dark secrets. Kendrick said this ain't about rap, it's about what's real. That's a direct attack on the entire system that hip-hop has become entangled with. Labels manipulating beefs, streaming farms and chart rigging, fake friendship, rappers selling out their roots for global appeal. It's the same system that the pop industry, Taylor Swift in this case, is built on. The audience is changing. They want truth. They want realness. The new generation of fans is more skeptical. They notice when the artist is faking it. They can detect when the narrative is industry fed. They want authenticity, accountability.
I think a lot of them do, but I am not 100% convinced that it's a sustained movement yet. I think we have to wait and see. I'm saying this because I hope it's true, but I feel like people, especially people who've been starved for authenticity so long, it feels really good to kind of see people wake up to what you're talking about. And I think it's easy to think, oh, this means that the whole world is leveling up. But I think what it really reveals is a lot of people deep down knew, and they just can't hide it anymore. So they kind of have to admit it. But to me, it's almost scarier because how can so many people be into this bullshit 6 months ago? And you mean to me all these people all at once can just suddenly get it with just one album? Like, I've got to look at you kind of funny and think, okay, you kind of knew, either you knew all along and you just figured you can get away with it because you didn't want to miss out on the party. So you just pretended the music was good at the party because the party had the best drugs and the best girls and the best, crowd, or you're just pretending now like it was a fad to you then and this is the new fad and you're with it. Like, I think real change takes longer. I'm just not buying all these people are, waking up. I just think, people, a lot of these people just want to side with a winner, and Kendrick was clearly winning and they just jumped along.
And a little bit more substance. So when Kendrick exposed Drake, even with all of Drake's commercial power, the public leaned in Kendrick's direction, but only because the audience recognized something real. And I feel like this is why Taylor Swift is going through what she's going through with these mixed reviews. I feel like it's more noticeable because of these reasons, the same reasons as Drake, despite Kendrick and Taylor Swift being cool.
I don't know what you're trying to say here. Taylor Swift's games, I'm guessing you mean fans. I mean, a lot of fans did turn against her. And the last album was very poorly received. Now, will the super fans turn against her? Probably not. They're going to intensify. But a lot of the more casual and older fans, there was a definite backlash. And I don't think he's saying that they're doing it because of Kendrick. I don't think he's saying that the Taylor Swift fans are like, hey, we listened to Kendrick, now we hate you. I think he's saying that Kendrick called this out and gave a name to the phenomenon, and that he was kind of prescient, I mean, I think personally that's what he's saying, but I could be wrong. You could be right. I don't want to mind read for this guy.
This is essentially the same outcome that every artist is going to face, whether they like Kendrick or not. Whoever's getting support from the system might face the truth that Kendrick was trying to expose on Watch the Party Die. He wasn't just talking about hip hop. He was talking about the whole entire entertainment industry and its own version of the party. So Taylor Swift and Drake used the same system, just in different genres. Both curated their image to perfection. Both dominated for over a decade. Both relied on control, strategy, and media power.
Yeah, and the over the decade thing, I think, is a very important thing. I was kind of realizing, I always put in sports LeBron James in the same category, and kind of like how someone here said in one of this guy's clips that he feels like Taylor Swift fans are people who don't really like music. And I've said in the past that that Drake fans don't actually like hip hop. They actually like the fact that Drake waters down hip hop. They're people who feel like hip hop was kind of exclusionary and elitist and gatekeeping, and they hated that you needed to study to be accepted in hip hop. They wanted hip hop to be open to everyone. They wanted hip hop to be Bautista Cuba. They're like the people who hated what Castro did to Cuba because they wanted Cuba to be a playground where everybody could exploit it, have sex in it, extract money out of it, and like Drake's like Bautista and Kendrick's like Castro. It's like, no, you can't just come here and take what you want. We're not like your playground. You have to contribute something. And like just like those white Cubans in Miami can't get past what Castro took for them. That's what Drake fans are now 2 years later. Twitter's like they're Miami. They're just on Twitter, just complaining that they thought they had ownership over hip hop and it was taken away from them. Like in the Godfather 2. That's Drake is like that scene, and Kendrick's like that scene in Godfather 2 where they take over and kick all the interlopers out.
Both are now facing backlash from an audience that no longer buys the act. Kendrick didn't just defeat Drake, he broke the spell. And in doing so, he exposed how much the culture was being propped up on industry lies, not artistic truth. That ripple isn't stopping at rap. It's hitting every corner of entertainment. And some of the biggest names, Drake, Taylor, and others, are learning that you can't manipulate a conscious audience forever. And to be fair, it's important to make this distinction. I'm not saying that Taylor Swift is some villain in all of this.
Yeah, nobody's saying that demises don't happen that fast. But they start somewhere. Like, it is a definite chink in her armor. Like, I don't think people are saying like she's done and she's wrapped, but it definitely underperformed based on what they wanted. I don't think it was just the media that was on her head. I think actual people were on her head more. Like, the media has no integrity anymore. The media chases what the tweets say. If the people still liked her, I think the media would still like her. I think there is no real divide between the fans and the media anymore, because the media is just glorified tweeters now anyway. So they're just tweeters with a little bit of an extra platform. They're not real. We don't really have real critics anymore. We just have fans and fans who work in media.
That she is like Drake and has benefited from a system that is now being questioned. Taylor Swift has always been doing her thing. She's always stayed in her lane. She supports progressive causes and has genuinely evolved over time. Her image is heavily managed, yes, but it's not built on deception of exploit.
I don't know what she's evolved into, but okay.
Pop culture, for example. So for context, she does represent the over-curated image first pop machine, but not in a malicious way. More like she's part of the system, but she isn't really.
Why is not in a malicious way? Like, what she's like extracting out of her like 12-year-old fans, I think is ridiculous. And I've seen like people in the third world spend like significant money to see her. We've covered it in other podcasts in the past, where people like a lot of people. I don't want to let people off the hook and take agency away from them. If you're poor and you're spending all your money on somebody who's recruited you into a cult, like, that person's kind of messed up. But you got to have, as an adult, some kind of agency. So for the adults that will spend money they can't afford on her, but for kids, like, kids are just walking marks, and she's like, really hitting up these kids for a grip.
The manipulator herself. She's a tool for the system itself. And as far as Drake, he's always been accused of ghostwriting, fake alliances.
Yeah, and that's something that I get kind of tired of. I talked about it on last episode about people always wanting to make sure they make a disclaimer. I'm not blaming an individual, I'm blaming the system. But sometimes, like, systems are made of individuals, and it's a abstraction. Like, at the end of the day, there's people in systems that collectively make things suck. And she is a billionaire. She is a system. She's bigger than some companies. We can't just treat her like an individual just because she's one person. She's a corporation. She's a brand. She is a billionaire. She's a machine.
Multiple cultures, operates with calculated moves that often blur the ethical lines, pushing narratives and all this stuff, right? Kendrick's diss didn't just attack his music, but his integrity, his image, and his proximity to real culture harm. Drake is someone who actively bends the system to stay on top, even if it means compromising artists or moral lines. Completely two different people. But again, the system is in their corner. Some, like Drake, may have crossed a line that can't be walked back. The nuance matters. So I'm not just trying to point at Taylor Swift or any other type of celebrity. I'm just trying to point out the system lifts certain artists up, how some play along, and how some push it too far. But y'all can tell me how you feel about this and get back to me, man. Big shout outs to everybody that you see here on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you went a little too easy on Taylor Swift, but it's a start. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I don't want them all to be like 2 hours, so I kept that one short. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back on Thursday, and yeah, everyone be good. In the meantime, make sure to hit like on your way out. And if you're not a member of the Patreon, for $5 a month, become a member. You get a lot of bonus content, and you'll be supporting the show. We should have a new podcast episode coming out tomorrow on the Patreon, basically about how everything sucks and why. So yeah, definitely check that out. All right, everyone, take care. Peace.